Hello and welcome to episode 38 of Avonlea Chronicles, a knitting podcast. My name is Martha and I'm here to talk about all things knitting and crafting. I have been so busy finishing some projects that I'm excited to share about and getting some projects ready for the summer. But first, I have to show you some bookstore purchases. I was in our local bookshop the other day and I saw the best sticker. And I keep some of my favorite stickers on the back of my Kobo. I have the Kobo Libra color and I just have the clear case because it lets the pen magnetize to the side and the front. But you don't have to commit to putting stickers. Like, I've not put the stickers, I've not actually stuck them on. I've just laid them on the back of my Kobo and then I put the clear case on top. But this is the one I got. And it says, if you love someone, let them knit. And it has a hank of yarn and some knitting needles. And it was just too perfect. So I put it on the back with some of my other stickers. But I thought I could not pass up that sticker because it was just too perfect. And then I've been waiting for this other book for a really long time. So back in March, when I was at knitting group on March break, one of the ladies had told us that there was this new book coming out called The Resistance Knitting Club, and it's inspired by a true story, and it's written by Jenny O'Brien. I almost said it was knit by Jenny O'Brien. It's written by Jenny O'Brien. So I was already going to the bookstore to pick up another order back in March. So when I went, I said, can you order this book for me? So they ordered it. And then I've been waiting. And every time I've gone in, I've asked, is it here yet? Like, what's going on with it? So the other week I emailed and I was just like, hey, what's going on with my book? And they said the distributor, so it was like on order with their distributor, but it was like out of stock. So they still put it in order, but then the order got canceled. They didn't cancel the order, like the distributor canceled the order. So they had to like reorder it, but that's why it took so long. And then once it was all sorted out the other week, it came like so fast. So I'm very excited to get into it. I've been trying to read too many things at once. I'm only on like chapter 2. So I'm super excited to read this because it might be a contender for pitching to my book club. It's either that or the book Endling by Maria Riva about Ukraine and snails, and which was another really good book. But this one is about how women used to knit code into their projects to help with the war effort. So I'm actually like super looking forward to reading this book, and because I decided to buy it, I will pass it around our knitting group. But it looks so good. I love the cover with the Eiffel Tower and books and baskets of knitting and yarn. So I'm super excited about this, and I think people will really enjoy it. It says if you love the Nightingale, the Alice Network, or the Last Bookshop in London, you'll like this. And it's got like 2 timelines going on: Guernsey in 2010 and Paris in 1941. It's inspired by the true story of a woman who used knitting patterns to encode intelligence during World War II. So I'm super stoked about this. I'm so glad it's finally come in. I think it's going to be the perfect book to start off some summer reading. I'm also still working through Remarkably Bright Creatures. I feel like the last book that I read kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So I'm like trying to get back into reading a good book. And the book that I read wasn't bad. It was called First Frost. And I had been recommended by a friend to read Garden Spells, which I read and I loved Garden Spells. First Frost was like the next book. There's only 2. There isn't a full series, but I didn't really like First Frost. I read it in most of it in a day and I didn't really like it. So yeah, but I'm very excited to finally have this book to read. Oh, and I forgot to show these last time, but on my website, avonleaknits.ca, you can now get blank greeting cards, thank you cards, just because, with pictures of my shawls from my photo shoots. I've only done a couple because I wanted to see how they turned out, and they're so good. This is the matte finish, and I've put my logo down at the bottom. This is a picture of just a basket of my shawl designs, but I've done, I think, a postcard version, and I've put my Wrapped in Love shawl, which is my favorite design, on them. So they come flat like this, and they've got like the crease line to fold. They come as a pack of 10, and they have envelopes, and the other side is totally blank, so you can put whatever you like in there. But these are available for purchase on my website. I'm super pleased with how they turned out, and I totally forgot to mention them the last time I was on here. So let's get into some knitting. I think I showed these last time. I was just filming my Instagram video of what I'm working on this month. I'm considering wet blocking these again and really trying to like stretch them out a bit. I don't know if they're not deep enough to go over a 100-gram skein. I looked at another free pattern that says it fits over a 100-gram skein, and it uses the same number of stitches around. So I don't really know, but I'd love for these to fit a 100-gram cake. So I'm considering. I'm not really sure, but I do want to use these. I'm just not sure why they're not fitting around a 100-gram skein. You might need a more aggressive wet block, so I might try that with like one of them first. And I would have to soak it in wool wash, but then put it around something. So I'd either have to find a jar that's the same circumference as a 100-gram skein, or put a 100-gram skein in a Ziploc bag and then stretch this over. I'm not really sure, but I might experiment with that, because if another pattern uses the same stitch count and fits over a 100-gram skein, so should these. But anyway, they'll be good for 50-gram skeins. Okay, let's do my summer knits first. This will be a little like project parade, and I'm trying not to like have everything fall beside me. So I have a finished object that I'm wearing that I'll talk about after, but I'm getting ready for my summer break and I want some things to knit. I am looking at a cardigan I've been looking at on my couch for like 2 years. I am bound and determined, come hell or high water, to knit that cardigan this summer. Then I also realized, like, I have so many sweater quantities or shirt quantities of stuff. Like, for me, I can get away with 2 100-gram skeins, sometimes 3 for a top, depending on whether it's short sleeve or long sleeve, and the yardage. So I have chosen 4 patterns plus the cardigan that's already on the needles. That's like 5 different pieces of clothing, but I'm only showing 2 for now because I need to finish this cardigan that is on the needles, and I don't want to like overwhelm myself. Last year I ended up only making the Palm Springs tank and then doing a couple of designs, so we'll see what I get done. I try and save, we usually knit twice a week, and so I try to take the easy like garment knitting, like the tank top for the most part last summer was, once I got the like straps and the neck done, then I was knitting round and round and round, and it was kind of mindless. So it's easy to take to knitting group, whereas if I'm designing something, I typically like to do it at home where nobody's around and I can concentrate if I need to concentrate. So the first thing is I've had this yarn, beautiful like tealy blue. It's kind of tonal, and it's Fleece Artist Merino Slim, and it's 400 meters or 437 yards, and it's 113 grams, and it's from Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I've never even, oh, the tag is like closed with a sticker. I don't know what the inside of the tag says, but this is what I'm using. This was given to me by someone a couple years ago for Christmas, and I'm going to knit the Dove tank with it, and I will definitely be making it longer. I'm not so much a fan of the cropped garments, but also I usually have to make a larger size so it fits my chest. So I think this will be perfect because it's a slightly bigger skein of yarn. It's slightly more than 100 grams, and I think it'll be perfect and light and fun for this tank top. And what I love about making garments is you can add more length if you want to. If you don't want the cropped version, you can add as much length as you like. So I'm super excited to do that and to use this because I've been trying to find something to make with this. So I think this will be great. And then I have not really been sure what I've wanted to do with all of my Anne of Green Gables yarn from Peggy May Yarns. So I did her Anne of Green Gables club where she did a skein of yarn inspired by the cover of the books for all 8. I was just looking at my bookshelf. All 8 books. And she was inspired by like the different covers. So each month or each club, we got a different Anne book with a different cover. So we have like the whole series of Anne books, but each of them has a different cover. So that was fun to add to my collection because there were covers that I hadn't seen before, or because it's in the public domain. The book has been printed with a cover from years ago. So I have all those 8 skeins, and then there was all the skeins from the character club where she did Anne, Diana, Matthew, Marilla, Gilbert, Rachel Lynde, Miss Stacy, and Aunt Josephine. I think there was those 2. And there was another 8. I think that was all of them. And I've just used 2 here, and I have 2 more that I have an idea for. But I've had all of these skeins, and I'm like, I'm not really sure what I want to do with them. And I saw Tony Lipsy make this rose cardigan with granny squares, and Tony Lipsy is like the queen of crochet. She has a book on Tunisian crochet. But I thought this was kind of in the back of my mind when I thought about all the Anne yarn that I have and how perfect they would be, because it's kind of like a patchworky, modern granny square cardigan. Now this pattern, it is free on her website. So I printed it out yesterday, and I looked at all of my yarn and I pulled out 7 skeins. Now this is in DK weight yarn. Mine are all fingering weight yarn, but I'm going to hold them double. So this is what I'm thinking of. We've got like a super bright yellow with some pops of orange, an orangey brown. This one is sort of green, orange, yellow, brown. This one's got some blue in it. This one's Gilbert's color. This one has speckles of all the colors. This one's more yellow and green, and then this one's got brown and green and a little bit of purple. So I'm thinking these will be perfect because I'm not trying to be the same as this one, but it just happens that the colors kind of match. And then the only thing I need is a solid color to do the join and the collar. So when I go to the Muskoka Fiber Festival at the end of the month, I'm going to take this bag with me, probably keep them in the hanks until then. And I am going to see what people have and take the pattern and say, this is what I'm wanting to make. You know, what are your thoughts? And yeah, and the pattern is like, there's not like exact measurements because and I've not knit a granny square garment before. I've only knit like the comfort pouches from HG Designs Crochet, but this is like a guideline and instructions on how to put them together. There's a bit of measuring that I'll have to do, that I will have to get some help with for how to make it like the right size for you. But I definitely thought I had the right colors, and I can knit holding 2 strands of fingering to make a DK, and that would be such a great use for all of those colorways, because I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with them, but I had to collect them because I love Anne of Green Gables so much. So that's what I'm going to start with, and the cardigan that's already on the needles. Then I have 2 more patterns and 2 more sweater quantities of yarn. One that my dad got me for Christmas, and I think I've found the right sweater for it. And then another cardigan, and I have some light purple that's kind of similar to my logo. But like I said, like 5 garments is a lot. I'm not trying to overwhelm myself, so I'm starting off easy and slow. And the nice thing about this one is once I've had some help and I figure out the math and I get started on making the granny squares, that will be the perfect like project for when I don't have a lot of time. If I don't have a couple of hours to sit down and knit on something, I can just pull out one color and my crochet hook and make a couple of granny squares. Or if I'm going somewhere and I need a small project to take with me, I can just take 1 or 2 colors and be making granny squares. And then it will be a little bit to like put it all together to construct it. But I thought it would be the perfect summer project because it is small. And it will be the perfect thing to work on during the super hot days when you don't want a big project sitting on your lap. So those are my 2 projects for now, plus this other cardigan that's been sitting on the couch forever. But I am so looking forward to adding these to my wardrobe. I do find it a little bit hard being a teacher in elementary. I don't often wear my knits to school because I work in mostly primary classrooms where goodness knows what gets on you. The other day, a student asked me if I would plug in the hot glue gun for them, and they didn't tell me that it was already warm. They had I guess they had used it. I was just walking into a classroom on my break, and they had used it already and it had been unplugged, and then they used it again. So as I leaned over the counter to plug it in, it stuck to my pants and I got hot glue on my pants. So that's why I don't really wear my knits to school very often, because you never know what's going to get on them. But I'm very excited to add these to my wardrobe for when I'm not at school. Next up, I have this project. It's behind me. These are 3 50-gram skeins from Koigu. They were at our yarn swap and I picked them up. And I thought I had an idea, and then I didn't really have an idea, and then I did last night. I am going to make a little sampler shawl, and I'm just going to use a couple of stitch patterns from my other asymmetrical, I think this is an asymmetrical boomerang shape. So I'm using just some really simple stitch patterns from other patterns that I've designed and putting them together. So this will be really fun. I have enjoyed knitting sampler projects before in the past when I was learning how to knit, because it gave me an opportunity to learn different stitch patterns in one project. So this will be just a super quick design for me to make, because I'm really just going to copy and paste 3 stitch patterns from other designs into this one. So I have only just started, but I can't wait to see how it knits up. And at this point, everything is just falling. I really need a table in front of me to do this. And what else? Oh, I really want to knit with this because it's pink and purple. This is Diana Berry and Miss Stacy. The colorway is from the Anne of Green Gables character club. And I think I have an idea. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to make with it. I just have to solidify the pattern idea. They also match my nails. So I will hopefully get this design on the needles at some point. And oh, I just got this. This was an early birthday present. So I have a good friend who's a quilter and a knitter, and she made some drawstring bags for the local quilt show. And when she showed me a picture, I was like, oh, I really love the bunting one. And she ended up getting it for me for an early birthday present. It is so cute. It is fully lined. The top fabric has like little flowers on it, and then it's totally lined inside with some other type of just cute fabric. But it's so perfect because I am like the queen of bunting. And now that I've put my Christmas lights away, the wall that separates this room, my living room, from my kitchen dining room has like a double door opening. I don't know what to call it when it's just like the rectangle cut out of the wall. I'm sure there's a word for it. But I string my Christmas lights up every year over the doorway, and I've got the clear command hooks, just little ones. And at one point when I first started making triangles for bunting, I had strung them up there, but it was too big. They were too big, even though I make mine out of fingering weight yarn from my scraps. They've made a nice size, but it's too big for that doorway. And then when I made the ones for school, I made them out of worsted weight, and they were much bigger because it was a bigger space. And I used acrylic yarn, so of course it was bigger. But I'm thinking of just adapting the pattern. And I think you start with like 35 stitches. So I'm thinking of starting with like way less. So if I start with fewer stitches, I will just get the tip of the triangle. And all I have to do is just follow the same pattern, but much fewer stitches, and then I'll have smaller triangles. So I'm thinking of doing a little bunting for my doorway from my scraps. So it'll be free project, and it will fit perfectly in here, but also my new little design with the koi goo that's all fallen on the floor will also fit perfectly in this bag. This bag will be so well used and well loved. So I'm so happy about that. A little early birthday gift. And now, last but not least, this has been falling off because my dress fabric is, it's polyester, but it's slippery. I finished this shawl, and let's talk about it. This is the Bosom Friend shawl, and this gave me a little bit of trouble in the beginning. These colorways are Mrs. Rachel Lind, and the bottom one is Aunt Josephine. Now, if you will remember, I think several episodes back, when I got these yarns, they looked like sisters, not twins. They almost looked like twins. They almost looked identical, except Aunt Josephine had a chunk of green in it. So when they were twisted up in the hank, they looked almost the same, except Aunt Josephine had a chunk of green. And I think I've talked about this before. My mom went to a workshop where they talked about color and yarn and how it looks twisted up in a hank like this compared to when it's being wound in a cake like this. And so I honestly didn't think anything of it. And then on Easter weekend, I thought like, okay, well, they're going to look like pretty similar. I'm not sure what the difference will be. And then when I caked them up on Easter weekend and I showed them to my mom, I was like, Mom, this is like what you've talked about from that workshop you went to. They look so, I showed a picture and I'm like, they look almost exactly the same in the hank. But I said they caked up so dang different. That one chunk of green has gone everywhere. And it really did. Like, that whole cake of yarn was so much more green than I had expected. And so I'm glad I actually put them together, because it's worked out well. And this top one, it's a little bit hard to see in this lighting. So this is the Rachel Lynn's colorway. The end that I started with, it has some green specks in it, but then as we go down, it's got more blues, more purples, more like reds colors. And then you've got the pop of green at the bottom from the other skein of yarn. So what I did was, it's mostly garter stitch. And then I have these lace patterns that I find online, from like different books. And this rose pattern really liked. And then I found there was a rose cluster. Now, I've never done a cluster before, but it's literally the same flower pattern, just 4 of them together in a little diamond. So it works out nicely that, like, you've got the little diamond of 4 here, and then you've got the cluster of them where they're smooshed together down at the bottom. I was knitting away and thought that I was going to use the lace pattern from another shawl that I've designed for the flower, because I thought it was the same flower that I used, but this is slightly different, which was fine. The first 2 rows are the same. But anyway, I was blissfully knitting along and not really thinking about how much yarn I had, and went way over. Then I had to unpick like 20 rows. That was fine. Got unpicked, and then I realized that my center line was off. I'm like, my stitch count isn't right. For a top-down triangle, you have an uneven number, and 1/2 has an even number, and 1/2 has an odd number. And you've got to make sure your center line is in the center. Well, somehow I got off center by 1 stitch, so my odd half had an even number, and my even half had an odd number. And so I found the spot. I sat down on the floor one night, pulled it off the needles, and I carefully just frogged until about a row before my mistake. And then I put it back on the needles, wound up all the yarn, unpicked another row or 2 to fix the mistake in the center. Then I got back on track. Then I knit to the right stitch count. I did the first 2 rows, and then I realized the flower pattern I was using was different from the other one that I wanted to use. But what was okay was that the first 2 rows were the same, so that was fine. But the rest of the math worked out. And then I had thought about striping to transition to the next color, but then I didn't have enough, and I decided not to. And I'm actually glad that I didn't stripe. I feel like the striping would have just been lost, because they are similar. It's just this one is way more green. And then I knit a few rows, and then I did the 1 cluster, and then I just did garter stitch till the end. And my mom will love this. My mom loves a picot bind off. I just wanted to make it a little more fancy with the picot bind off. So that was it. And the math worked out really nice on this one, because the rows mirror each other. Sometimes it's a little bit off, but it was super easy to write the pattern for this because you have the same number of stitches. So you do a little increase at the beginning, you do a little increase in the middle, and then same on the second half. But the number of stitches after you increase and before you do your lace repeats is the same. So sometimes there's 7 stitches here, and then you get to a few, like your stitches before the middle, and you knit 7, and then you do your increase. So it was so nice that that math worked out, because you're just adding 1 every time, because you increase 1 at the beginning, 1 at the middle, slip your marker, increase another 1, and then increase 1 at the end. I could just easily write that you increase, knit 7, do your lace repeat, knit 7, then increase, and it was the same for the second half. And then the next lace row, you increase, knit 8, lace pattern, knit 8, increase again. So that math worked out beautifully because there was no fudging around with numbers and trying to sort things out. So that is the bosom friend shawl. I am now going to photograph this, and then I have to type up the pattern and get it ready to go out. But that has been all of my projects and my little summer pattern parade. And I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Hopefully I will have made some progress on my garments. I won't have done anything on the crochet cardigan because I have to wait till the end of the month to get a solid joining color. But I hopefully will have started the tank and have gotten more progress on the cardigan that's been abandoned for a while. So I will see you again in a couple of weeks, and have fun starting on your summer knits.